I think it was a little bit ridiculous. People were mocking him outside the first round. I don't see him going out of the first round. I don't care if you're upset that he's a slot receiver. Most of your favorite players in fantasy football right now are slot receivers. You're telling me you don't love Amon-Ra St. Brown, Cooper Kupp? You didn't love JSN last year? Give me a damn break with this slot receiver type of. In the past on this channel, you may have heard me say that this is the best running back class we have seen since 2017. Well, then the combine hits and we have hit after hit after hit. Athletically, it doesn't mean they're going to be good NFL players, but this running back class just tests out of the gym. And that is going to impact today's 2025 Dynasty Rookie Mock Draft, updated after the combine. Shout out to our intern, Sammy Stacks, who made this mock draft on March 3rd. It is a 7-round mock draft. The link will be in the description if you want to follow along. I'll also have my editor put it on the screen for us. But here's what we're doing at the 101 Superflex mock draft. Ashton Jeanty, in this mock draft that we're using, he went 12th overall to the Dallas Cowboys. I think everyone's ideal landing spot, right? We know how much we love Ashton Jeanty as a player. I think he's in that Bijan, Jahmyr Gibbs level. If he goes to the Cowboys, some people might have him ahead of those players in Dynasty rankings, but he'd be my locked and loaded 101 in that scenario. Now, at the 102, this is where things start to kind of solidify for me after what we saw at the Combine. So at the Combine, Amarion Hampton comes out. He puts up a 9.61 relative athletic score, runs a 4.46 40-yard dash, great 10-yard and 20-yard splits at 221 pounds. Then he has an elite explosion grade, just dominates the Combine completely. We also had people, before he even tested, throwing rumors out there that NFL teams had Amarion Hampton as their first running back on their board ahead of Ashton Jeanty. And in today's world, Sammy Stacks has mocked Amarion Hampton in the first round to the Denver Broncos. That makes him my 102, locked and loaded. And let me tell you something. If any running back goes in round 1, I don't care what their name is, they will go ahead of the wide receivers for me, all right? If you're looking at star hit rates, that is a top 24 points per game season. A round 1 running back hits at an 86% rate. Wide receivers more at 53%. All this information's in our rookie report, by the way. But if you take it a step further and you look at superstar status, which is a top 12 points per game season, you'll see round 1 running backs, by far the best bet to make. 78.6% of running backs taken in round 1 of the past 11 years have hit superstar status. Wide receivers only hovering around 28%. So even if you want to talk about the upside case, come on now, the numbers back this up. Amarion Hampton right there as my 102. Welcome aboard. If you disagree, I'm sorry. I don't know what to tell you. Here at the 103, you notice a trend continuing here. Are we going wide receiver? No, we're staying at the running back position. We are going to go Travion Henderson, who in this world lands with the Chicago Bears, the 39th overall pick. So he gets early 2nd round draft capital. And now we get to think about him in Ben Johnson's offense over there in Chicago. He had a great day himself. 9.43 relative athletic score, great 10 and 20-yard split, 40-yard dash at 4.43. Explosion grade is exactly what you wanted it to see. One of RAS's comps, by the way, is actually Reggie Bush, which I thought was pretty interesting to think about. I love Travion Henderson's comp as a D'Angelo Williams, a Tiki Barber, and Aaron Jones, but I think he'd be the perfect fit in Ben Johnson's offense. And if that offense with Ben Johnson's going to say, we want him in the 2nd round, I believe he's going to make an impact on your team from day 1. And by the way, let's look again at that star status, just at the star status rate, okay? Round 2 running backs hit at a 71% rate, whereas round 1 wide receivers are at 53%. You can have a conviction on these guys. That's fine. I put all these guys in the same tier, your Tets, your Hamptons, your Hendersons, your Judkins, and with these type of landing spots, this type of draft capital, in this world that we're living in here with Henderson to the Bears early 2nd round, I think he's more than worthy of being the 102 in this world. All right, at the 104, what do you think we're going to do? I don't know, guys. I think the Combine just locked in like 4 running backs in round 2 at worst. I really feel that way. And at the 104, we're going back to the well. Quinshon Judkins. Where does he land? He lands with the Raiders, 37th overall. Now, keep in mind, his offensive coordinator, Chip Kelly, just came over from Ohio State to be the offensive coordinator for the Las Vegas Raiders under who? Pete Carroll. Think about it. What has Pete Carroll's most successful years as a head coach been built around? Defense and running the damn ball. And now he gets to bring in Quinshon Judkins, a guy that you can hand 20 carries a game, this offense that desperately needs to replace Josh Jacobs, and they draft him with the 37th pick, early second round. Again, if we go back to our historical hit rates, 71% hit rate for round 2 running backs. Guys, don't forget how good a round 2 running back is for fantasy football. Breece Hall was a round 2 running back. He was a 101 in his class. Ken Walker was a round 2 running back. He was a 102 in his class. All right, by ADP. Don't forget how freaking good a round 2 running back is in Dynasty rookie drafts. Yes, I'm a bet on them running backs. And at the 105, do we start to change things up? Almost, all right, almost. I'm sorry, we're close. But we're going to take Caleb Johnson at the 105. In this mock draft, he went to the Commanders with the 61st overall pick. That is still a round 2 selection to an offense that just added Deebo Samuel. You had Jaden Daniels going on an absolute tear in his rookie season, and they had no running backs that really could make an impact for them in the playoffs, right? Brian Robinson was fine. He was serviceable, but in the playoffs, he couldn't help them win games. Austin Eckler couldn't stay healthy. He's a little bit too old. Now, Caleb Johnson, who I compared coming out to Nick Chubb, joins an offense that has a decent offensive line. You know they're going to be focused on Jaden Daniels a ton. On the goal line, you have the RPO. I mean, we're going to see a guy who could potentially average like a touchdown a game in this offense. This is the perfect fit for Caleb Johnson to go to the Commanders, a great offense where he can just elevate it a little bit more. And again, we love them round 2 running backs, man. I don't care if you think this is a stupid start. I'm eating those running backs up, even in Superflex. Give them to me all damn day. All right, at the 106, we will change it up. All right, calm down. All right, at the 106, we do get Tet McMillan coming off the board. He was the 7th overall pick to the New York Giants. Now, look, I'll be honest. Like, I like Tet McMillan a lot. Like, I see a lot of Drake London after the catch, a lot of Mike Evans at the catch point. I'm sure you've heard that before. I'm sure it's not the first time you've heard that. There's a little Mike Williams to his game. I think he's better after the catch than Mike Williams. But he goes to a place in New York here where Garrett Wilson's already there. I mean, I would have Garrett Wilson as a higher grade in my prospects database than I would Tet McMillan. Doesn't mean that they're on different levels. They're very similar in grade, different players. They complement each other well in the real NFL. It makes a ton of sense for the Jets in real life. But you still have to talk about the fact that we have been waiting for Garrett Wilson to break out for how many years now, guys? How many years have we been like, this is the year that Garrett Wilson's going to break out? Well, Aaron Rodgers is coming over now. It's going to be just, it's like, come on. Like, at some point, you have to ask the question, situations matter. This is why we were a little bit worried about Roma Dunze last year. We went to Chicago Bears. So many mouths to feed. Now you have to, what? Are we going to have Tyrod Taylor throw in 150 targets to Tet McMillan? I mean, how many times are they even going to trust him to throw the ball? So you do have to ask the question a little bit, but talent, of course, wins out. We'll take Tet McMillan here at the 106. At the 107, we will go with our guy, Luther Burden. Now, Luther Burden ends up going round 1, pick 23 to the Green Bay Packers. And man, they could desperately use a wide receiver like Luther Burden on that team. Jaden Reed and Luther Burden, you split these guys in and out of the slot, inside, outside. I think it's a very good complement to each other. If you have the right, coordinator to really figure out how to deploy these guys. Luther Burden came out at the NFL Combine, ran a 4.41 40-yard dash, a great 10 and 20-yard split, and he did it at 6 foot, 206 pounds. In their database, Terry McLaurin and DJ Moore are the closest athletic comps. For me, Luther Burden is a combination of Deebo Samuel and Rashee Rice and Jackson Smith-Njigba. Combine those 3 players into one. That's what you're getting with Luther Burden. I believe he's been undervalued this entire offseason. I'll continue to stand by his side. And I think it was a little bit ridiculous. People were mocking him outside the first round. I don't see him going out of the first round. I don't care if you're upset that he's a slot receiver. Most of your favorite players in fantasy football right now are slot receivers. You're telling me you don't love Amon-Ra St. Brown? Come on. You're telling me you weren't loving Cooper Kupp in his prime? You didn't love JSN last year? Give me a damn break with this slot receiver type of BS. Oh, and what was the other narrative? He can't stretch the field. If you looked on film, he could stretch the field. He comes out, runs a 4.41. Shut that thing down. All right, at the 108 and the 109, we are going to have 2 quarterbacks coming off the board here back to back. That is Shedeur Sanders to the Raiders and Cam Ward to the Browns. I don't care which way you lean here. I do not personally have a strong conviction on this class as a whole. I don't think it's a very good class as a whole. I think Sanders and Ward are, the cream of the crop in this class. I believe Sanders is a safer play. He's like your Tua, your Brock Purdy, your safe quarterback 2 in a super flex league. Whereas Cam Ward is that guy where if you're drafting him, you recognize there's a floor that is concerning, but there's a ceiling that maybe Shedeur Sanders just does not have. So whichever way you lean here, I don't blame you either way. Keep in mind, we had Cam Ward as the 2nd overall pick in the draft, Shedeur Sanders as the 6th overall pick in the draft. And what I commonly get in my comment section is there's just no way these quarterbacks can fall down the board. It's not possible. You can't have these quarterbacks fall down the board. And this is what I always tell people. Look, my 102, 103 to the 107 is one huge tier. You can go look at my rookie rankings yesterday. If you want to put Shedeur Sanders as high as the 103, if you want to put Cam Ward as high as the 103, I'm totally fine with that. But there's a ton of fluidity right now from the 103 to the 107. I really don't care which way you go. Shedeur Sanders, Cam Ward, just as worthy of being up there. I personally do not have conviction. And if you're upset that I'm not putting the quarterbacks up high where everyone else has them, then what you're looking for is Sleeper's ADP. Feel free to click off of the video and go tune into Sleeper's ADP, because aren't you watching the channel to hear someone else's opinion? I love, the difference of opinion in the community, but it's okay to have a different opinion, right? I think Shedeur Sanders and Cam Ward, like I said, high as a 103, as low as a 108, 109 in my range, in my opinion. I just think those players before them, I just don't see those guys failing in the NFL. All right, at the 110, we got our first tight end coming off the board. Love this fit. In fact, in tight end premium leagues, you could argue this guy is worthy of being the 106 in this scenario. That is Colson Loveland. He goes to the Chargers, 22nd overall, links back up with his head coach out of Michigan, Jim Harbaugh, a team that desperately needs weapons outside of Ladd McConkey to reliably run their offense through. We saw great games with Will Disley last year. Now you get an upgraded version of that with Colson Loveland. It's an Evan Ingram rookie season from day one. You're getting 100 plus targets day one in LA. Colson Loveland would with, I was going to say the Michigan Chargers, but yeah, you know what I'm saying. All right, at the 111, a guy who had an incredible combine, Matthew Golden is coming off the board. He goes to the perfect situation. The Houston Texans, right, with CJ Stroud. Obviously, Stephon Diggs is going to move on. Tank Dell couldn't stay healthy. So now Matthew Golden becomes your wide receiver 2. He complements Nico Collins. He'll never overtake Nico Collins. But my comp for him was Brandon Cooks. Funnily enough, Brandon Cooks had quite a few years in Houston, putting up 1,000-yard seasons. Matthew Golden came out at the combine, ran a 4.29 40-yard dash, great 10 and 20-yard splits, proved that he could stretch the field, and proved in the playoffs that he was a very good player and he could be a consistent 1,000-yard producer. At the 112, another tight end coming off the board here. That is Tyler Warren. I like Tyler Warren. I don't care if you have Warren or Colson Loveland ahead of each other. They're both great prospects. He goes to the Seahawks. I don't really love this spot as far as projecting fantasy success with DK Metcalf there. There are rumors he could be moved, but he's not right now. JSN is there. And with a guy like JSN who dominates over the middle of the field, what is Tyler Warren's involvement going to be? Is he going to be more focused on improving their run game, which he definitely would? I just don't know exactly what that would look like in year one. All right. Just before we get into round number 2, I gotta let you know. If you want an in-depth breakdown of your team with customized trade targets, players to buy, sell, hold, then get your team playbook today by either becoming a yearly Mother Flocker member with the promo code LAND or by going directly to the Flock store, regardless of what promo code you're on. And if you want it done live, make sure you get the live tier. Those links are in the pinned comment. All right, getting into round number 2, Travis Hunter finally comes off the board. He was actually the first overall pick in the draft to the Tennessee Titans. My issue is, at the time of recording this video, I don't know what the Titans intend to use him as. If they intend to use him as a wide receiver, I'm probably going to put him as my 102 in this class, right? But in this scenario, if they intend to use him as a cornerback and only, let's say, 4 targets a game, it's a little bit more difficult to project how to value him in Dynasty. So I think this is where that risk reward is kind of baked in early second round for a name like Travis Hunter. Then we have Emeka Egbuka, who I think is just as worthy of a Luther Burden, a Matthew Golden, of being a first-round pick in Dynasty rookie drafts. But in this world we're living in, my intern, Sammy Stacks, put him in the second round, 34th overall pick to Emeka Egbuka. Now, if you remember last year, Ladd McConkey was an early second-round pick, so this is not a death sentence whatsoever, but it is the reason why he fell down a little bit for me. Malik Neighbors is clearly your number one there, right? And if we look at round 2 hit rates for wide receivers, it's about 32%. So that's why he fell a little bit. Still love the player. He's such a safe player, in my opinion. All right, at the 203, we get a running back coming off the board who just absolutely obliterated the combine. That is Bashul Tootin. Now, Bashul Tootin in this world went in round 3 to the Los Angeles Chargers. So he is joining Colston Loveland, Justin Herbert, Jim Harbaugh, right? And that group over there. And he's going to probably step in and become their starting running back. Became, a more consistent name after the combine. We actually brought him in a sleeper video 2 weeks ago. He's no longer a sleeper. Everybody knows his name. You can't come out at the combine and run a 4.32, a 1.49, 10-yard split, have an elite explosion grade, and be a sleeper anymore, right? 9.62 relative athletic score, jumped out of the damn gym. Before the combine, my comp for him was Jaylen Warren. That doesn't fit now with this type of athletic testing. The comp is more like James Cook. So imagine James Cook on the Los Angeles Chargers, and I think that's why Bashul Tootin goes at the 203. He needs to learn to hold on to the ball. He had 7 fumbles in the past 2 years. That's the only reason he's been lower in my grading scale for players. All right, moving on at the 204, we have Cam Skattebo, who went, again in the 3rd round here. Yes, the 3rd round, 83rd overall pick to the Steelers. The perfect replacement for Najee long term. He didn't do all the testing at the combine, but what he did do was very impressive with, the vertical and broad jump. After that, we have RJ Harvey at the 205, who went to the Vikings in round 3, a team that is very good offensively, right? With who knows if it's going to be Sam Darnold or JJ McCarthy, but the combination of Jefferson, Addison, Hawkinson, and now you add a running back to a running back room that is completely decimated in RJ Harvey, he probably becomes a starter there day one. Maybe they bring back Aaron Jones, to complement him, but he has a great opportunity to lead that backfield from day one. At the 206, we get one of our favorite players in the class. That is Jalen Royals. He goes at the 38th overall pick, early 2nd round, to the New England Patriots. Now look, the New England Patriots are not good historically at drafting wide receivers, but let me tell you something. If you know, you know. Jalen Royals I just don't see how he fails in the NFL. Right? You can use this guy at the line of scrimmage. You can throw it up and let him high point the ball. He's great in multiple areas, great quickness off the line of scrimmage. We saw that in his athletic testing. He's going to come in day one and be a good manufactured touch type of guy. And you can also use him, in the deep game, if you will. So I think he's a perfect fit for this offense. They need an explosive player, and that's what he's going to give them. All right, back at the 207 to the running back position. Wouldn't you know, the strengths of this class are running back. That's why we can't stop drafting them. In the 3rd round, the Chiefs got a running back that I'm obsessed with. That is Brashard Smith, one of my guys in this class. Former converted wide receiver, transferred from Miami to SMU to play running back. Dominated this year, helped SMU get into the playoffs. He comes and runs a 4.39 40-yard dash and really helps his draft capital, in my opinion. He goes to the Chiefs here. Think about an upgraded version of what Jerick McKinnon was to the Chiefs a couple years ago. Jerick McKinnon was like a top 24 running back in fantasy football, and that's because of the receiving profile that he had, and I think Brashard Smith can give you a little bit something similar there, a little Tyrone Tracy to his game. At the 208, we're going to take another running back. Wouldn't you know it? All right, this is where Dylan Sampson comes off the board. He goes early 2nd round to the Cleveland Browns, who desperately need someone in this running back room that they can rely on week in, week out. I mean, this system has been built around Nick Chubb for so long. They've been such a good rushing team. And when Nick Chubb went down with that injury, they have really struggled to establish the run game. So Dylan Sampson's going to help them do that. Huge production this year, over 20 touchdowns. At the 209, we are going to take a tight end. His name is Elijah Arroyo. He goes in the 2nd round to the Bengals. This is the perfect fit. All right, we saw great blow-up games for Mike Gesicki recently, right? Elijah Arroyo, I can't help but see some Zach Ertz, some David Njoku. So for the Bengals to get him, and for the Bengals to have all these games without T. Higgins, Arroyo is definitely someone who could improve their value throughout the course of the year. And then we'll end the video on 3 receivers. Jack Besh, who went to the Steelers. Love me some Jack Besh. This, blue-collar, hard-nosed, hard worker type of player. Some Puka Nacua, Robert Woods to his game. We've got Trey Harris to the Falcons. All these guys went in round 2, by the way. Trey Harris to the Falcons. Kyle Pitts not living up to his expectations as a receiver. What does Darnell Mooney look like? That's why Trey Harris fell a little bit for me. But Trey Harris has such a high ceiling in this class. And then Jalen Knoll, who absolutely dominated the combine himself. He goes in round 3 to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, I'm assuming that the Jags are moving on from Christian Kirk. The reports are that they're going to move on from Christian Kirk because it will save them money. Jalen Knoll will be the perfect replacement. I always comp Jalen Knoll to Josh Downs. He's Josh Downs and Darnell Mooney combined. And I think he'd be the perfect fit as a number 2 to Brian Thomas. I would love, love, love that fit for him. And to end the video, I'll give you my ALL-SNUBS list. These are players that definitely could have made it in the first 2 rounds. A lot of you guys will love these names, but because of their landing spots or their draft capital, they just didn't make it in. So for example, Alec Ayomanor, a player that I'm not obsessed with, but the community loves, had a great day at the combine. He went to the Panthers in round 2, late 2nd round. You could totally put him in there if you wanted. Jaden Higgins, I was prepared to put him mid-2nd round, but he fell to the Ravens. And look at Zay Flowers. He was a 1st round pick. It's just like the definition of mid for fantasy football. DJ Giddens, who got great draft capital in round 3, but he went to the Packers. I don't know what to do with that, right? Harold Fannin, who went to the Saints in round 3. Terrence Ferguson, who shot up draft boards after the combine. Isaiah Bond, who had a good combine. He just set the wrong expectations. He went to the Cowboys, I believe, round 3 in this draft. Yes, Jackson Dart, who was a round 2 quarterback to the Jets. Xavier Restrepo, who went to the Bucks. Jarquez Hunter and Damian Martinez, who were 4th round picks to the Giants and the 49ers. All those guys, you could say, were worthy of being in the first 2 rounds. It's a good class, man. Honestly, like the way these running backs tested and the draft capital that should come along with it, this class is much better than people are giving it credit for, in my opinion. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I want to make this very clear. I love Ted McMillan. Love me Luther Burden. Love me Emeka Egbuka. But the world we're living in today, I believe it made more sense to prioritize those running backs, especially when you consider historical hit rates. I appreciate you watching the video. I'll see you guys very soon. Enjoy the rest of your week. If you're thinking about supporting us in this economy, that's big love, and you deserve love in return. So for every yearly Mother Flocker member who uses the promo code LAND, we're giving out a free team playbook, our 2025 rookie report, access to all premium tools, free site vouchers, and of course, a huge thank you from the LAND crew. You're far too kind. That's love.